Hey everybody, thanks for coming down the shore. With St. Patty's Day just around the corner, as you can tell, I have my gear on and I'm ready to go. I figured a lot of you would be making Irish soda bread. And forget about all of those fancy techniques and waiting for that dough to rise. I'm going to show you today how to make the easiest, most delicious Irish soda bread. It has a nice golden crust, it's slightly sweet, and it's ready in about an hour. And trust me, once you taste this recipe, you'll never go back to those fancy techniques and waiting for that dough to rise again. So to make this Irish bread, we're going to preheat the oven to 375. And I'm going to use a Dutch oven because I find that it comes out a lot better. But you can use a straight baking sheet and just line it with parchment paper. So I have lined my Dutch oven with parchment paper, and that's because it's going to make it easier to just pop the bread out when it's done. Now in this stand mixer, I'm going to be adding in 4 cups of flour, and this is all-purpose flour. And the mixer has a paddle attachment. And then I'm going to be adding in 4 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now you can play around with using honey or sugar substitutes, but I'm just going to use granulated sugar because I want you to see how this recipe comes out the way that the recipe was made. And then I have baking soda, and that's 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. That's 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and it's 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So this is kosher salt. So there's the 1 teaspoon and the 1/2 teaspoon. So again, that was 1.5 teaspoons of salt, but only 1 teaspoon of the baking soda. And we're just going to mix this to blend it together. So that's good for now. Now we're going to measure up the wet ingredients. So I don't have any buttermilk right now, so we're going to make buttermilk, and it's super easy. So this recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of buttermilk. So what you're going to do is do 1 3/4 cups of milk, and for every cup you add a tablespoon of lemon juice. Now there's other substitutions that you can do, like vinegar, which unfortunately I don't have right now either. And then there's like cream of tartar or something like that, but I have lemon juice, so that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then I'm going to do 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice. I'm sorry, 2.5 teaspoons of lemon juice for the 3/4 of a cup. So we'll do another half, and then we'll do 2 teaspoons. Oops, well, a little more. It doesn't matter. We're basically just making buttermilk because I don't have any. And it works exactly the same, so don't worry about the flavor of the lemon being in the bread. That's not going to happen. The acidity in the lemon actually mixes with the milk to create the buttermilk consistency, and it doesn't really have a flavor to it. And now we're going to whisk in 1 egg to the now buttermilk. So I went and got an egg, and unfortunately my girls are all on strike because it's winter time, so this is a store-bought egg, but it is pasture-raised. So I'm just going to whisk this together, and then the secret ingredient for this recipe is orange zest. So we're going to be adding 1 teaspoon of orange zest, or basically it ended up being 1 large orange that I zested into this measuring spoon. I probably should have used a bigger bowl so I could really get in there and do something without it spilling. But it's all right. We'll get it going here. All right, so now I'm going to add in my orange zest. And I'm going to whisk that all together. And by the way, the orange zest just gives the bread a subtle brightness to it. So you don't have to add it if you don't want to. Now I have to get the cubed butter out of the fridge because this is the most important part. It has to be cold. So let me grab it out of the fridge. This is 4 tablespoons of cubed butter, and I'm going to add it to the stand mixer, and we're going to blend it together. A little too high there for a second. Okay, I should have mentioned that I'm going to put my Dutch oven in the oven so that the Dutch oven preheats. You usually put the Dutch oven in when you're preheating the oven, but I forgot to tell you guys that, so I'm going to do it right now. And my oven takes about 10 minutes to preheat, so we'll give it 10 more minutes before I put the dough in. So now it's time to bring it all together. So what I'm going to do is bring you over here, and I'm going to add in the buttermilk into the dry ingredients, and I'm going to show you what it looks like as the dough starts to come together. We want it to become soft and slightly sticky, so you'll be able to see what that looks like in a second here. So hopefully you guys can see this. I'm just going to start pouring in the buttermilk, and I'm going to do it on low. And hopefully you can hear this okay. Get the microphone away from the mixer here. So you can see the dough starting to come together, and again, I'm doing this on low. Sorry, I put my arm in front of there. So as you can see, it's smooth, but it's sticky. And that's what we want. And hopefully you guys could hear what I was saying there. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little trick with the raisins. We don't want these to sink to the bottom of the dough. So what I'm going to do is just coat them with some flour. It's about a tablespoon of flour, just so that they'll stay incorporated with all of the dough and not just sink to the bottom. So now that the raisins are coated, hopefully you can see that, I'm going to mix them into the dough. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is get all of the dough off the paddle and into a ball. And then we're going to put it into the Dutch oven, and we're gonna score the top, and then we're gonna bake it. So I'm gonna put you on pause real quick while I bring all the dough together. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys how sticky this is. So what I'm going to do is try and bring it all together into a ball. I know I probably have way too much flour here, but that's all right. So that's all I'm going to do is just turn it into a ball. I'm not going to knead it or anything. Just turn it into a ball like that. Let me wash my hands, and then we'll score it and put it into the Dutch oven. So this is the traditional part of it. I have this handy dandy scoring knife, but you can use a razor blade or a really sharp steak knife, or not a steak knife, but one of your butcher block knives. And you're just going to score this. And it's not just because it's going to look pretty, but it's also because it's going to help the bread bake evenly, which I probably should have done the scoring after I put it in the Dutch oven. So I'm going to use my dough scraper to get it into the Dutch oven. This thing works amazing. Okay, so let me bring you over so you can see it in the Dutch oven. So that is the score right here. And I'm going to put the lid, oh, I forgot it's hot. And I'm going to put the lid onto the Dutch oven and let it bake for the first 25 minutes with the lid on. And then I'm going to take the lid off to let it finish baking. And it should bake for 45 minutes. Now, if you're doing this on a flat baking sheet with parchment paper, you don't have to worry about lid, no lid, or anything like that. Obviously, you just bake it for 40 to 45 minutes. Now, start with 40 minutes and go up to 45 minutes if needed. So let me get this into the oven, and I'll see you back here in 20 minutes when I take the lid off so that you can see what it looks like when it's baking in a Dutch oven as opposed to a flat baking sheet. Okay, I just want to show you guys what it looks like when I take the lid off of the Dutch oven. So I'm going to take the Dutch oven out and take the lid off, and then I'll give you a close-up of what the crust looks like. So I'm taking the lid off, and that is what the crust looks like. It's soft and it's not brown, but the bread is definitely baking. So what I'm going to do now is put the Dutch oven back into the oven, and I'm going to let it bake for another 25 minutes. It's actually been 25 minutes when I took the lid off. Okay, so it's been a total of 45 minutes. I'm going to pull the Dutch oven out of the oven, and I'm going to take the bread and put it onto the cooling rack, and I'll give you a nice close-up of the bread. So I just want to show you how easy this is when you use a Dutch oven to get the dough out. You literally just pick it up. And I'm just going to put it on the cooling rack. And I'll bring you in and I will show you. Look at how delicious that looks. Now, again, if you like yours done a little more, if you like your crust a little darker, then just bake it a little longer. But for now, I'm going to let it cool for about 20 minutes, and then we'll cut into it, and I'll show you what the inside of the bread looks like. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. I'm going to cut into the bread. Let's see. You know what? Let me bring that up there because I don't know if you guys got a good picture of the crust. See, I don't know if you can see how the crust is kind of golden, but let's cut into it. Now, I will say my husband would probably like this baked a little longer because, again, like I said in another bread video, he prefers a crispier, darker crust. But I'm probably going to be eating this with my daughter, so we like it this way. So I guess what I'll do is I'll cut right down the middle. And then I'll open it up so you guys can see. I'll open it up here so you guys can see. Actually, let me cut a slice. And then let me bring you over here so you can get a better look at it. That is the inside of the slice. And that is the, and that's the top. But hopefully you can see, that it's a pretty sturdy piece of bread. It doesn't look very dense. I mean, it is a little dense, but it's not too bad. So for the first piece, I'm just going to try it. Look at all those raisins. I'm just going to try. Oh, by the way, you could have used currants and not raisins, but all I had was raisins. And honestly, I don't think I've ever had a currant in my life. So if you've had it with a currant in it, put it in the comments below whether it's better or not. So let me give this a taste. Hopefully you don't hear me chewing too much. This is awesome. I love this. Let me go get some butter to put on this. This actually doesn't need butter, but I'll put some butter on it just to see what it tastes like. This is really good. It's like really, really good. I have made Irish soda bread in the past, doing the longer version of it, waiting for it to rise and all of that. And I will tell you that this tastes just as good and it's way less work. So there you have it. The easiest, most delicious Irish soda bread in 1 hour. And you can make it this weekend because St. Patty's Day is this weekend. Now, if you found this recipe helpful, check out this playlist over here. I have a playlist with my homemade bread recipes. Right now, it's only going to have 2 recipes in it, but I also have another playlist with my homestead recipes, and there's all different kinds of recipes in that playlist, so check it out. So thanks for coming down the shore today. Keep striving to be more self-sufficient, and I'll see you on the next video.